Hey everybody, it's Cam. Welcome back to the channel. Let's talk some stocks. So in this video, we're going to talk about cannabis industry stocks. It is Sunday, March 28th. In this upcoming week, there's potential that New York State will legalize recreational use for adults. So it could be a big catalyst this week to see volume and buyers come back into the cannabis industry. So we're going to look at THCX, MSOS, which are both ETFs, CURLF CURLF, Aphria APHA, Tilray TLRY, Canopy Growth Company CGC, Aurora Cannabis ACB, and Sundial Growers SNDL. So if you only have an interest in one of them, you'll be able to slide on the bottom or go down in the description and just hop to the timestamp of the ticker that you want. So first we'll start out with THCX. As you can see, we had that big run up into February, and then we've basically been selling off since then and consolidating the last 2 weeks. So we sold off down to the 200, EMA on the weekly 22 in that area. Buyers came in pretty solid week, first week of March, pushed us back up to 61.8, but then sellers came in, pushed us back down. This last week, pretty big red candle, got us below the 9 EMA on the weekly. So if we look at the volume here, you can see we do have volume of support right about that $19 area, upper 18s to 19, right? We put down to 18.8. That's basically where the volume is sitting at, right there where the buyers came in at that 18.8 level into 19. And then we do have a little bit of area of less volume in the 19s. So if we get positive catalysts on the passing of a bill for New York, you see volume come in and pushes back up to the next area of high volume, right? A lot of volume sitting here around 21. So if we get a positive news, we can move up to 21 pretty quick here with THCX. If you go to the daily, you can just see we're basically been making the wave down. So got the big push, buyers came in real strong. You see here with this huge lower wick on the candle from March 5th. Hit another inside bar, so the inside bar play the top, boom. Buyers came in right at that 50, pushed us up, but we couldn't get through that $23 area, pushed us back to the moving average, rolled over at the 61.8, and you can see now we're basically hugging the 50 right here, closed just below it on Friday. Now the 9's crossed over the 22, so if buyers don't come in, the chart's looking to move in the downward direction, so be bearish. But the positive catalyst of New York could turn this thing around. And you can see here the difference on the daily to the weekly volume. Does look like there is quite a bit of a volume void here, around $19, and then more volumes coming in here sitting at the 20. So on the daily chart, looking like we could have a less range on the move before we run into overhead resistance at about that $20, 20.5 area. So next, let's look at MSOS, another ETF. Go back out to the weekly. So it's only been around since the end of August, right? So short chart, but fibs from the 55.91 now to 20.45. See, we pulled back to that 61.8. Buyers came in, held that 61.8 level, pushed us back up to 78. Sellers came in at 78. Fib pushed us back down to 61. Buyers are still holding it again. You can see a lot of the volume concentrated up here between 41 to really 46. It's a big chunk, but even up to $50, right? Because the chart hasn't been around a long time. You can't really see the volume because my webcam's blocking it, but a vast majority of the volume's been since this year, so January time frame. So a lot of volume concentrated up here at the top of the chart. Go to the daily, get a better breakdown of the volume from this. But chart, pretty similar to THCX. Hit that high in the beginning of February, pulls us back. Huge long wick here, inside bar play. Again, pushes back up. The retracement or the push higher here was less than THCX, but similar chart, rolled over 78.6, sold us back down 61.8. Do get a hammer candle here, green. Opened right at 61.8, sold off. Buyers came in, pushed us back up, and then indecision on Friday. Right, started the day higher, gapped up, but sold off, but still holding that 61.8 level. So if buyers come in, first area of resistance is going to be this 9 EMA. Right, we got all EMAs here on the daily time frame, downtrending with the 9 pretty considerably down. So that's going to be the first area of resistance, and that's probably going to correspond here. A lot of volume at 43. So look for that $43 area to break for a move higher. So we'll go to Curaleaf next. Curaleaf Holdings. If we go back out to the weekly. Right, so how far does it go? Right, so it goes back to end of 2018, so low 254 up to 1838. So this one out of all the tickers listed is probably the most bullish still on the move that it's made. Right, so we hit that high just like the others at the beginning of February. Pullback really only came to the 78.6. Right, so pulled back here down really to the 2022 moving average, or double bottom basically off the pullback before the peak. But really been concentrating up around the 9 EMA here on the 78.6. Do have considerable volume, high volume up towards the top of the chart, at least for that $15 area right at that 78.6 level, which we're sitting at right now. So look to see if that acts as support going into next week. If you just look here at the daily, right, so still the last February, March, so the last 40 days really is similar to the other ETFs, but a more muted move down, right? So we get the down here, same time frame, beginning of March, pullbacks less, but really been consolidating more here. We got a real tightening up of the moving averages, and just from this week alone, 1, 2, 3, 4 days where we got wicks down here, down to 14.5, and no day did we close under 15 bucks. So it looks like buyers are really supporting this upper $14 area on Curaleaf. So we'll have to look to see if that holds going forward. We do have the 9 EMA coming down, but with the expected positive catalyst from New York, and this being an American company, while most are foreign, this thing should be able to find buyers at this level and look to move higher. We'll go to Aphria first, or next, before Tilray. Jump back out to the weekly. Right, so Aphria, just like Curaleaf, is probably the next bullish on this pattern, really holding the 9 EMA here still well. We had that huge week in February. This is one of the higher percent gains that week, along with Tilray, expected because they're going to merge with each other. Pulled back to the 9, just because that extended move that corresponds to the 38.2 fib right here. Buyers came in, held that. Next week, used the 9 to move higher, got us back up to 61.8. Sellers came in at 61.8, basically making a double top here from the week of February 15th to March 15th. So basically a month. Got a level in here in the upper $22 area. Sold us back off down to the 9 EMA and on the 50, closed above that here this week. And you see we do have some volume here at that level, but a lot of volume sitting in between, or around $19 at least for the move up. So if we get a positive sentiment, we're gonna have to look for $19 to break to move before we get a big move higher. Go out to the daily, right? So similar move, kind of less muted, right? This would be more of a consolidation play here, right? So still have that double top in place, but we are getting higher lows, except for the quick pullback off the drop at the beginning of February. But long term here, right? So we're higher low in it, kind of forming an ascending triangle. You see the 9 and 22 basically cross on each other, using that 50 as support right now. So buyers come in, we break that level, which basically is going to correspond with that volume area at 19 bucks. Could move higher to go retest that double top into next week. So let's go to Tilray next. So Tilray weekly, oops, come on. Alright, so Tilray long-term chart been definitely beat down. Had this massive squeeze when it first came out back in 2018. Pulled back all the way, oh come on, down to 243. Had the biggest move in February, got all the way up to $67, and then sold us back off all the way down to 18 bucks, right? So we pulled all the way back to the 23.6 fib, and then moved higher. But as you can see, we got 4 weeks where we had wicks above the 200 EMA, but weren't able to close above it. Also, closing right around that 38.2 fib. So right now it looks like we could be consolidating between the 38 and the 23. Long-term EMAs, the 22 and the 50 are pointing back up, so we could get a pullback down here. And as you can see, a ton of volume sitting between 21 and 20. So if positive news comes out this week with the passing in New York, right? We are sitting right at an area of high volume, so that area could act as a launch pad to move us higher. If we go out to the daily, right, pretty similar chart to the other, still way down, pullback, selling off here, right, but we're curling back up, staying real close to these moving averages that are getting really tight. So you like to see that, where you get everything consolidating, getting really tight, volumes kind of drying up, and then you get an explosive move one way or the other. So look to see if we do get that move. You can see here quite a bit of volume in the upper 20s. That will need to break through, but once we get through that, you know, so we've only had this extended move here, we could be off to the races again. And Tilray, you know, is a ticker that likes to move pretty violently. So we'll go to CGC next. Go out to the weekly. See, it's long term. Right, got down to $9 and start of the pandemic. The move in February moved up to 56.5. Basically got us back up above into this consolidated area from, you know, 2018. Pulled us back here down to the 22 on the moving averages, 38.6, or the 61 from the long-term downtrend. So they're pretty corresponding pretty tightly there. And then you see here, basically using the 9 as support and resistance right now. Sold off it this last week, back down to the 22. Buyers came in, held the 22, pushed us back up, but still closed below that 50 fib level. And then here to the daily, similar story to the other stocks, right? Kept selling off. The pullback higher was, you know, muted compared to the others, and then still selling off, right? So we been very consistent here in volume the last 2 weeks, you know, between 4 and 2.5 million, 2.2 on Friday, so a little bit less. But on the daily here, you see we pushed back up to that 9 EMA, sold off it pretty hard. You know, I mean, hard relatively, about $1, still closed above 32. So look to see if you know, this big engulfing green candle from Thursday will act as a low, right? So last time it poked down to about $30. Buyers came in, supported that with this, you know, pin hammer right here on February 5th. So let's see if this acts as, you know, a higher low to push us up higher with the catalyst coming this week. And then we'll go to ACB, Aurora Cannabis. Quick look there. It looks like the daily's almost basically the same as CGC. Be here long term. We did have the split back in April, so the move was less compared to the others in terms of, you know, dollar in the move in February, right? So we're pulling back, and then now we're sitting here consolidating underneath the moving averages. You know, closed basically at the 61.8. Beginning of March, got back above to the 9. Tried to push higher, couldn't get it, sold off, and then we're sitting here even lower now than any point else that we've been in March. So ACB is looking kind of like the weakest out of most of these tickers. But if you look at volume here, right? Oh man, come on. Right, you see we do have quite a bit of volume above, between 11 and 13 bucks. So really, if this thing sells off, we're looking for $8 to hold. Otherwise, we could go test the bottom of the channel again. If we go to the daily, right? So more bearish compared to the others. So bigger sell-off, smaller pullback relatively compared to the percent gain, and pull back. Let's see if this acts as a double bottom here, right? So similar to CGC, you got the hammer candle on March 5th, green candle on Thursday, the 25th. But this one's basically lined up as a double bottom, so that could act as you know, a good base for buyers. You know, could have a lot of buyers come in on that Thursday, ready to push this thing back up for Friday and this upcoming week. Then lastly, we'll end with Sundial, so SNDL. All right, so this is a popular cannabis industry pick on stock twits, finance Twitter, a lot of Discord chat rooms. So, you know, here huge run up from really, you know, 60 cents up to 3.96. Big pullback here on the daily, and then right now it looks like buyers are coming in to support this on the 200 EMA on the daily, but still downtrending. If we look at volume, right, so this thing is capable of, you know, trading and pretty insane amount of shares, right? It's almost 3 billion shares traded on the high day, and now all the way down to 213 million shares, so a tenth of that volume. But we do have a pretty solid base here in the 1.1s, right? So buyers came in that 1.06 area right off the 200, pushed us back in. So we are forming a pretty solid volume base for buyers to come in at for this upcoming week. If we just do the opposite here, look at the weekly, right? So we do have the 22 pushing up into the low from this last week, so could get some additional support from that as that EMA moves higher this next week as the next candle forms. So that's what I got for you guys on the cannabis industry stocks. Could be an interesting week. Hoping for a lot of volume to pour in on the New York news, and New York being a very populous state could drive other states to look at legalization and then potentially federal legalization here quickly down the road. So hope you guys had a great weekend. If you guys got any other companies or other sectors you'd like me to look at, let me know in the comments. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.